Hello, and this is Burke Lyle. Another player I'm voting for, first year of eligibility, and he's not going to get in, right around 10%. Fransisco Rodriquez. So what I'd say about Rodriquez, this is interesting in his career. So his fourth all-time in saves, 437, 3 top 5 Cy Young Award finishers, which that is impressive in itself. I mean, he did it as a reliever in 2004, and his ERA was quite low that year, and then did it in 2006. Again, another great year, and then 2008 when he had 62 saves in a given year. So again, a Cy Young finalist. So that is impressive that a relief pitcher has a top 5 Cy Young Award finish. And I was surprised how many relief pitchers did that. 9. Which, if you think about that, that is not very many. And 6 of them that did are in the Hall of Fame. Again, there are not that many Hall of Fame relievers. And you think about it, this is according to Baseball Reference Jaws. I mean, think about how many relief pitchers there are in a given year. Like, think about, and again, it's in a lot of the best relief pitchers ever that are in the Hall of Fame are closers, pretty much. Since, again, I think that shows your ability to close out and finish games. But you think about it, when you look at it, I mean, think about all-star relievers in a given year, and then think about guys who rack up saves in a given year, and guys who are closers for a consistent period of time, and then to have 9 relievers in MLB history, 3 or more top 5 Cy Young finishes. Again, I think if a reliever or a closer is top 5 in Cy Young, that is pretty extraordinary since you think about all the great starting pitchers there are. So that's a pretty impressive feat right there. And again, right around 10%. But when you look at him, he is very similar to Billy Wagner. And Billy Wagner this year was close to the Hall of Fame. I think will get in eventually. And like Rodriguez, his percentages were around 10% that first few years. So I think if you're a closer, unless you're Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, they're exceptions. Those, I mean, since again Rodriguez is kind of, I'd say, kind of had a bit of a streaky career in some ways. But if you look at games, Rodriguez 100 more games ERA goes to Wagner. Saves Rodriguez. I think Billy Wagner is more consistently a closer. Innings again, about the same, but when you compare, I guess, per outing, it's a little bit different. Wagner does have a few more strikeouts. His ERA plus is a little bit higher. His strikeout rate is higher, better strikeout to walk ratio. So Wagner, I think, is a little bit better. Both very comparable. And remember, one thing with Rodriguez is did not become a full-time closer until 2005. Again, came up in 2002, was kind of part of that postseason run at the Angels, and was a really good reliever, but then became a closer and racked up tons of saves from about 2005 through 2009. Had a lot of saves. I'm surprised it wasn't an all-star in 2006. Should have been. But went to the Mets. I'd say kind of declined on the Mets for a period of time. And then there's a period where he wasn't closing games. It was, again, the setup man on the Brewers 2011. I guess they needed bullpen help that year. They were really good, won the division. Didn't close in 2012. Actually had a bit of a rough year. And then 2013 closed some. And went to the O's for the stretch. And didn't really close games at all. So for K-Rod, from about midway through 2011 through about much of 2013, just didn't really close games at all for an extended period of time in his career. And actually was an All-Stars last year in Milwaukee, or in 2 years in Milwaukee. Both years in Milwaukee came back, became a closer, and then racked up saves as 1 year in Detroit and had 44, 38, 44 saves, and then age 35 completely crashed. So with K-Rod, he could have gotten 500 saves potentially if he would have closed straight through, which again, sorry I'm recording this fairly late at night, but if you look up closers of the era, and just guys who had saves, and just looking at it, I mean, he could have had close to 500 saves. So again, I think a rough ending didn't. So, you know what? I'd say that not this year. I voted for K-Rod since I think he's a Hall of Famer. And if I think a guy's a Hall of Famer, I'm going to vote for him. And sometimes I could change my mind about certain players. Like, that could happen. But, I'm deciding. And whether they get 10% of the vote, whether they get 90% of the vote, if I think they're a Hall of Famer, I think they're a Hall of Famer. Now, some of these guys, which I don't understand, how they get 95% of the vote, yet who thinks they're not a Hall of Famer? Like, who in the world thought Ken Griffey Jr. was not a Hall of Famer? Who didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr.? I'm just making stuff up now. Who didn't vote for Hank Aaron? Who didn't vote for some of these guys? I mean, how are these guys not unanimous? I mean, who doesn't vote for these guys? I mean, come on. Like, who's going to think that Albert Pujols is not a Hall of Famer? I think it's possible is that they think, yeah, we know they're Hall of Famers, but there's other guys who I'd rather vote for, I think, who are Hall of Famers, so I'm not going to, okay, that's probably it. I don't know where that. So anyways, K-Rod, I'd say is a Hall of Famer.